Prosecutors in Georgia will use art as criminal evidence in an upcoming trial. The defendants are two popular artists from the music label YSL. Jeffrey Williams and Sergio Kitchens have been in custody since May. Kitchens raps under the name Gunna. He's got two #1 albums. Williams is known as Young Thug. Both men have been held without bond. They are charged as part of an 88-page indictment of 28 people in Atlanta for gang-related drug, weapon, and violent offenses. Their lyrics were quoted 11 times as, quote, overt acts, connecting them to crimes. Now, lyrics will not be the only evidence used in court. The indictment also cites bandanas and gang signs from social media marketing and music videos. One prosecutor referred to Mr. Williams' slang name, King Slime, to argue that he is the gang leader.
That you see the shadow in the back of the room. He's the one directing traffic. He is the one they're all afraid of. He's the one that's King Slime. He's pulling the shots. He is the most dangerous of the 28, Judge.
Let's discuss the case with Chris Timmons, a trial attorney and former prosecutor. He's litigated similar cases in Georgia. And Jennifer Justice, the CEO and founder of the consulting firm, The Justice Department. She's also a former entertainment attorney. Welcome to you both. And Mr. Timmons, I wonder if I could start with you and an explanation of one of the laws that's going to be key in this case, the RICO Act. I think some of us who watch way too many gangster movies are familiar with what the RICO Act is. But for everybody else, tell us what the act is and how it factors in here.
Sure. So the RICO Act was originally created to combat organized crime. It's a way of linking up seemingly unrelated crimes together under one conspiracy. So, for example, if you've got an organized crime ring that over on one side you've got Jimmy the Fish running gambling, you've got, Polly Walnuts over here running prostitution, and then it all leads up to the same gang leader. The folks running gambling, the folks running prostitution may not even know each other, but the RICO Act allows you to bring them all inside the umbrella. You're prosecuting the conspiracy, you're prosecuting the organization.
Jennifer, Justice, authorities say that the gang at the center of this is Young Slime Life. That's the YSL. YSL says that it's a record label. What do we know about the group's background, the group's history, that might help us suss out who's right?
Well, I don't know if knowing anything about the history other than the fact that they are all rappers from a similar area and the same kind of music is really, in a cultural background, is really what brings them together, which is very typical of music labels in general. It is, I worked with Rockefeller Records and Rock Nation. They all were hip-hop artists for the most part, and all from a certain kind of culture and spoke to a certain kind of, fan base. Same with country music or Latin music. So I don't know that that is anything in particular that would bring it together to say that they are all some part of a big RICO or organized crime, situation.
Chris Timmons, let me ask you in terms of the use of the lyrics. One of the lyrics that was cited in the indictment from Jeffrey Williams, a.k.a. Young Thug, from a video posted on social media said, "I never killed anybody but got something to do with that body." What's your sense of how lyrics like these stand up in court?
Well, there are a few different rules of evidence that are in play. One is Rule 403, which has to do with whether evidence is so highly prejudicial that it would be unfair to bring it in against in a criminal trial. The other one is the character evidence rule that says that you can't bring in unrelated bad acts unless they prove somehow that the existing crime happened. And so with regard to the lyrics, I mean, it's going to be a test that the judge is going to have to run to look at how close these lyrics are to the actual crimes that they're charged with. Do they match up with the crimes? Are they evidence of that particular crime? And so the rules of evidence in the state of Georgia, and as they are across the entire United States, are fairly permissive. You want evidence to get to the jury. And keep in mind the jury's the gatekeeper. Just because it comes in doesn't mean that they have to make the conclusion that that evidence necessarily proves something or not. I mean, these are 12 citizens. It's the biggest gatekeeping part of our criminal justice system. So, I mean, the judge is there to make a determination on whether the lyrics are going to come in as evidence or not. The jury is ultimately the one that's going to make the decision on how probative those lyrics are.
Yeah, Ms. Justice, in terms of how probative they are, I wonder, as an entertainment attorney, someone with experience kind of in this general area, how you view the interpretation of rap lyrics as evidence of a crime. I mean, that's one of the longest running, issues in terms of rap music, which is street cred. We have come a very long way from the message with Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five to where people have been rapping about the thug life they actually lived. So how do you separate that? How do you parse that out, especially since some rappers have foolishly tried to live that thug life to seem more authentic, but then ended up in trouble with the law?
Well, I think you said it very well. It is, a lot of it is bravado and bragging and not necessarily true. And you definitely can't use lyrics as a sole source of evidence. In particular, the fact that they're being used only in rap music, right? We're not hearing about country music or, books or art. If that were the case, would Nabokov would he be arrested for rape of a young girl in Lolita? So I think it's a very dangerous, slippery slope, and it's being treated as if, these guys are like reading from their diary and this is what their life is. That's not true. It's not always true. It's not it shouldn't just be what people are hanging their hat on. This is a total form of artistic expression. They have a freedom of speech. And if they live that life every day, it would be exhausting, right? There's just no way.
Chris Timmons, there's a state lawmaker here in New York, Senator Brad Hoylman, who has introduced a bill that would limit the use of lyrics as evidence in criminal cases. Here's part of what he said about his bill. Watch.
No one ever thought that Johnny Cash was going to shoot a man in Reno just to watch him die, or Bob Marley shot a sheriff but spared a deputy. But that's exactly what prosecutors are trying to convince juries about across this country.
I think I understand what he's getting with, but at the same time, and I got to let you go in just a second, this almost feels like that O.J. Simpson book, If I Did It. Like, if you're dumb enough to write about a crime you just committed, don't you belong behind bars? Like, what idiot admits that on a record? Like, I'm just trying to understand where the First Amendment ends and where criminal justice begins. Before we go, how do you see it?
Sure. Well, the First Amendment would be whether they're being prosecuted directly for having those lyrics. So like under some sort of obscenity statute, that's really where the First Amendment begins and ends. When we're talking about evidence, you're absolutely right. If somebody writes a book that says, if I did it, and lays out in graphic detail exactly what they did, that's going to be great evidence. And so what you're looking at when you're talking about protecting speech is the use of the rap lyrics going to have some sort of chilling effect on whether people produce rap music? And it's sort of putting the cart before the horse. Nobody's going to stop writing rap music because they're concerned that they're going to get prosecuted later for a murder. And so I don't think that's the concern. I really think this is an overreach by the government. I think, everything's fine. I think the rules of evidence will take care of it.
Chris Timmons, trial attorney and former prosecutor Jennifer Justice, Jennifer Justice, CEO and founder of the Justice Department consulting firm. Good to have you both with us. Thank you both very much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.